In this video, we're going to be looking at solving a radical equation of the form a times the nth root of f of x is equal to k. And we have a reminder of the product rule for exponents and the definition of raising an nth root to an nth power. In number 1, it asks us to simplify the expression negative 2 times the fifth root of 3x plus 4 all raised to the fifth by completing the steps below. First, it wants us to apply the product rule. So we have negative 2 to the fifth times the fifth root of 3x plus 4 to the fifth. And now it wants us to apply the definition. So we have negative 2 to the fifth is equal to negative 32 times, we have the fifth root of 3x plus 4 raised to the fifth. So we have 3x plus 4. And now it wants us to simplify. Negative 32 times 3x is negative 96x minus 32 times 4 is 128. And 2, they want us to write each equation in the form a times the nth root of f of x is equal to k, i.e., isolate the radical term on one side of the equation. So in a, we have 5 times the cube root of x plus 1 minus 3 is equal to negative 2. So the first thing that I'm going to do is distribute the 5. So I have 5 times the cube root of x plus 1 minus 15 is equal to negative 2. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. So I have 5 times the cube root of x plus 1 is equal to 13. And now I'm going to divide by 5. So I have the cube root of x plus 1 is equal to 13 divided by 5. And in b, we have 2 times the square root of x plus 5 times the square root of x is equal to 4. So the first thing that I'm going to do is combine my like terms. So I have 7 square root of x is equal to 4. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 7. So I have the square root of x is equal to 4 divided by 7. And then we have a box telling us the steps for solving a radical equation of the form a times the nth root of f of x is equal to k. And we'll go through each of these steps and the examples following. So 3 says find all the real solutions of the following equations. And for a, we have the cube root of x plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. And it wants us to isolate the radical term. So we have the cube root of x plus 1 is equal to negative 2. And now it wants us to raise both sides to the third power. So we have the cube root of x plus 1 cubed is equal to negative 2 cubed. And now it wants us to solve. And the cube root of x plus 1 cubed is equal to x plus 1. And negative 2 cubed is equal to negative 8. And then we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, and we get x is equal to negative 9. And then it wants us to check for extraneous roots and write the solution set. So now we need to see if we plug negative 9 into the original equation, if it's true. So we have the cube root of negative 9 plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. And negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8, so we have the cube root of negative 8 plus 2 is equal to 0. And then the cube root of negative 8 is negative 2. Then plus 2 is equal to 0. And this is true. So negative 9 is the solution set. For b, we have the fourth root of x plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. And it wants us to isolate the radical term. And we're going to do this by subtracting 2 from both sides. So we have the fourth root of x plus 1 is equal to negative 2. And now we want to raise both sides to the fourth power. So we have the fourth root of x plus 1 to the fourth is equal to negative 2 to the fourth. And the fourth root of x plus 1 to the fourth is equal to x plus 1. And negative 2 to the fourth is equal to 16. And now if we subtract 1 from both sides, we get x is equal to 15. And now we want to check for extraneous roots and write the solution set. So we have 15 plugged into our original equation. So we have the fourth root of 15 plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. 15 plus 1 is 16. So we have the fourth root of 16 plus 2 is equal to 0. And the fourth root of 16 is equal to 2. So we have 2 plus 2 is equal to 0. And this is false. So 15 is not part of the solution set. So we have an empty solution set. In C, we have 2 minus 3 times the square root of x minus 1 is equal to 1. And they want us to isolate the radical term. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract 2 from both sides. So we have negative 3 times the square root of x minus 1 is equal to negative 1. And now we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. So we're going to have the square root of x minus 1 is equal to 1/3. And now it tells us to square both sides. So we have the square root of x minus 1 squared is equal to 1/3 squared. And the square root of x minus 1 squared is equal to x minus 1. And 1/3 squared is equal to 1/9. And now it wants us to solve. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. So we're going to get x is equal to 10/9. And now we want to check for extraneous roots and write the solution set. So we're going to plug 10/9 back into our original equation, and we get 2 minus 3 times the square root of 10/9 minus 1 is equal to 1. And then we're going to simplify this. So we have 2 minus 3 times the square root. 10/9 minus 1 is 1/9 and equals 1. And then we have 2 minus 3, and the square root of 1/9 is 1/3 is equal to 1. And now we're going to have 2 minus 3 times 1/3 is equal to 1, and then is equal to 1. And 2 minus 1 is equal to 1, so this is true. So our solution set is 10/9. For D, we have the cube root of x squared minus x plus 6 minus 2 is equal to 0. And they want us to isolate the radical term, so we're going to add 2 to both sides. So we have the cube root of x squared minus x plus 6 is equal to 2. And now it wants us to cube both sides. So we're going to have the cube root of x squared minus x plus 6 cubed is equal to 2 cubed. And now we have the cube root of x squared minus x plus 6 cubed is equal to x squared minus x plus 6. And that's equal to 2 cubed, which is 8. And now I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides and set it equal to 0. and 6 minus 8 is negative 2. And now I'm going to write this as linear factors. So I'm going to have x minus 2 and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So our possible solutions are x is equal to 2 and x is equal to negative 1. And now we want to check and see if 2 and negative 1 are extraneous solutions and write a solution set. So for x is equal to 2, we have the cube root of 2 squared minus 2 plus 6 minus 2 is equal to 0. And then we have the cube root of 2 squared is 4, 4 minus 2 is 2, plus 6 is 8, minus 2 is equal to 0, and the cube root of 8 is equal to 2, so 2 minus 2 is equal to 0, so this is true. So x is equal to 2 is part of our solution set, and now let's check x is equal to negative 1. So we have the cube root of negative 1 squared minus a negative 1 plus 6 minus 2 is equal to 0. And then we have the cube root of negative 1 squared is 1 minus a negative 1, so is plus 1, so that's 2, plus 6 is 8, minus 2 is equal to 0, and the cube root of 8 is 2, so 2 minus 2 is equal to 0, so this is true. Our solution set is negative 1 and 2. And that's our video on solving a radical equation of the form a times the nth root of f of x is equal to k.